Hello and welcome to The Consumer. In today's episode, we'll be talking about my consumption of the TV show Person of Interest. This is a basic-ass TV show on basic-ass cable, and it's pretty goddamn good. Stars this dude with the gray hair, this guy with the glasses, this hottie, and we can ignore this dad back here. As for the show, I'm going to start with the feminine to masculine scale. This show is mostly for men, starring, guns, violence, murder, cheesy puns, computer tech shit, and most of the feminine crowd does not enjoy that kind of thing. I'm going to put it on a even split between a light show and a serious show. There's moments of brevity, and then there's also moments of seriousness. And it is also split evenly between a procedural show and a serial show, starting earlier on in the show being probably 7 or 8 procedural, and then later on going to 7 or 8 serial. There's an overarching story about a corrupt government that's been given access to a computer program developed by Mr. Glasses here, which spies on all of New York and susses out terrorists. Now, as for this show, whether you can watch it in the background or the foreground, it's a pretty good background show if you want to, play a video game and watch the TV show. It's pretty good at that. Most of the action sequences are pretty cheesy and not exactly desirable to watch. So you mostly want to follow with the plot and the story, which you can do in the background. Whether the show is woke or normal, it was created before the woke craze, so I'm going to put it on a 9 normal scale, a 1 woke scale. There's a little bit of woke stuff. This hottie here falls in love with this hottie here. They have a little scissor action between the two, but it takes several episodes to do so and feels rather natural instead of forced in there just for woke ideology. So, I could even maybe say 0 woke, but I'm going to give it 1. Whether the show is campy or pretentious, I'm going to put it at an 8 camp, 2 pretentious. There's a little bit of pretentiousness in this guy's speeches about, morality and the weight of creating an artificial intelligence. But for the most part, this fellow here camps it up pretty goddamn hard with his cheesy one-liners. Now let's go for some lowlights of the show. I just mentioned a little bit of it. One of the lowlights is going to be bad one-liners. For instance, this guy right here, John Reese in the show, pulls a shotgun out of the trunk, and he leans sideways and he looks at this guy and goes, "Shotgun," as if we're supposed to laugh at that. And I'm guessing if you were a little drunk, you probably would laugh at that. Another flaw that this show kind of has is inconsistent quality of episodes. I'll just put inconsistent quality. So you'll have one show that is riding high, 10 out of 10. Good shit happens. It's very exciting. And then the next episode is more like 4 out of 10. And then all of them have another one of the bad fight sequences. I'll just put bad fights. Primarily this guy, Detective Fusco. He's a short, fat, stocky little dude, and there's a couple of scenes where he's a cop, and instead of arresting someone, he decides to fight them instead, and it's pretty cheesy. Imagine Rocky if Rocky wasn't a boxer and couldn't fight. And the quality of the fights is shaky cam, cut scenes, so it's nothing good. You can't expect John Wick, which is why this makes for a great show to watch in the background. Another low light of the show is the awkward pacing. I'll just say pacing. Later on in the episodes, as it's switching from a procedural show to a serial show, it's really getting along with its overarching story and plot. It goes back to procedural, and it feels kind of weird. So you have 4 episodes of the main storyline, and then you'll get a procedural episode where they have to just save people in the number. So that's another low life. And I guess general overall cheese. There's a lot of cheesiness in this TV show. Damn good TV show, but it's just cheesy across the board in a couple of instances. Now for the high notes. Definitely got to be the characters. Characters are great in this show. So good that I can't even spell characters. This John Reese and Mr. Finch here are the two main characters. This dude builds an artificial intelligence which spies on the entire country, and he sells it to the government for $1. But he puts a back door that gives him a list of social security numbers of people that might be in danger but are not a serious threat to national security. So it doesn't go to the government, it goes to him. And he is like a crippled nerd, so he can't do anything about it. So he hires this guy who is a government assassin who the government tried to assassinate, but they failed to kill him. And that's how the show starts. And these two get a bit of a bromance going. And the character development's not so good until somewhere around season 2 or 3 when her and her come in. She's Shaw, also a government assassin, and this is Root, a hacker. So they're kind of like counterparts to each one of these. And their dynamic starts to get extremely interesting. She views his computer AI system as a god and wants to do anything she can to proliferate that godness. And so that, I think the characters are fantastic. He's a detective. He's not so good. As for more highlights, there's an overall level of badassery in this show. The scenes that happen, the stuff that goes on is just overall over-the-top badassery. So John Reese will like walk into a warehouse, steal a bunch of guns, shoot an engine block out with the .50 caliber. He gets captured. There may be like a attack dog there that only speaks Dutch, so he does Dutch commands to the dog. Really cool shit goes on. A lot of badassery. Another highlight is it's got a great story and plot. In this story, in this plot, they primarily work in an episodic nature to save people or to investigate numbers that are given to them. The person could either be a bad person or a good person. If this person's AI has caught them doing something shady or sus, if you want to call it that, and they have to suss out why the machine gave them their number. And throughout this plot, the government is kind of chasing this guy down because he built a closed system and the government wants it opened up. So the whole time there's like a battle between this dude trying to hide from the government while also helping people on what he calls the irrelevant list. And another good plot line from within this show is it's got a bit of an anti-government conspiracy theory thing going on, and I thoroughly enjoy that. I think the government has gone way too far with its surveillance and things like the Patriot Act, and anyone who feels that way is going to love this show. Just hands out, you're going to love it. Another highlights, guns, bombs, death. Got all that good stuff in there. If you're into guns, you're into bombs, you want to show where some people actually have consequences to their actions and die, this is great for a show. Overall, I would say that this show is like a savior power fantasy with a Snowden twist. And I definitely give it a consume it. You must consume it. And throughout the shows, the primary feels you're going to be getting paranoia, conspiracy theory. That's the primary thing that's going on here. Government's doing shady shit and, makes you feel good when they get their power fantasy. In this power fantasy, if you've ever thought about, what it would be like to save someone from an accident, this show might be for you. That's all they do is go around saving people. This guy is basically invincible, power fantasy, and everyone in the story has a redemption arc to go through. That's another emotion you're going to be feeling, is like that feeling of redemption when someone who's done something wrong works real hard to try to overcome it. And I would put a little bit of sadness in there. A few characters die, get a little man tears going. And that's the feels department. Similar consumables. I could put a couple on there, but there's only one you really need to know. Enemy of the State. This is basically Enemy of the State, the TV series. If you watched Enemy of the State, you liked Enemy of the State, you're going to like Person of Interest. If you watch Person of Interest and you like Person of Interest, you're going to like Enemy of the State. Now time for the total score. I give this show, this piece of consumable product, an 88 out of 100. I highly recommend this show for anyone who is into this kind of thing based on what I've said here. That will be all for this episode of The Consumer. Now, go and consume.